Etapu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Harun Nefer. This is Kasank Ma Keparu with another exciting video for you. In this video, we're going to talk about how to have a conversation with God. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. Also, we do have free ebooks for you that expand more on my spiritual teachings. You can scroll down below, click on the links. Download those ebooks today and start reading them. They are free. And lastly, if you're not already a supporter of ours on Patreon, what are you waiting for? A lot of things going on there on Patreon, a lot of great stuff. You can become a supporter for as little as $1, $5, or $20 per month is up to you. You can cancel at any time. You'll get exclusive access to instructional videos on the esoteric, which teach you how to go deeper down the rabbit hole. Videos that will teach you how to properly meditate, how to invoke spirits for your protection, how to do self-hypnosis to get rid of overeating, smoking, any negative habits, how to be a diviner, how to work with the oracles. We have Qigong videos and so much more. So become a Patreon supporter today. Now, finally, share this video with family and friends so we can get the revolution started. You know, every now and then I peruse some of the other channels and they'll so-called gurus or Kemetic spiritual philosophers or teachers. And the one thing that I find that's absent from their teachings is a way to understand and communicate directly with God. And that's for a reason. That's because most of them are not legitimate instructors, or they have no background in Kemetic spiritual system. They're not real priests or priestesses, and they give themselves away. But I'm not here to cast aspersions on them. But what I am trying to tell you is this, that if your religion is legitimate, if you are serious, you need to have a way to communicate with the Almighty. I remember one of my favorite films as a kid was Oh God with George Burns, I believe it was. And it was a really interesting film because he played this old man, he played God, who came to this young guy working at a supermarket. And the young guy didn't believe he was God. And George Burns would do these little miracles, but the miracles were always a kind of a slapstick backfire. So for example, if the guy was driving and George Burns was next to him, he says, okay, if you're God, make it rain. So George Burns would make it rain only in the car, which is funny as all heck, you know, just to teach him a lesson. And to be more respectful as well. And the movie kind of culminated into this court case where he had to prove that he was actually speaking with God, and God actually showed up to the courtroom. And a lot of interesting things happened there. So check it out. It's a very old film from back in the 70s called Oh God. And they went on to have a couple of sequels that weren't that good. But the original film was really good, and it got a lot of critical acclaim for when it came out. And George Burns, as you know, he's a comedic genius. So, you know, his wit is just funny as all heck in the film, you know. And at the very end of the film, which was a really nice way to end the film, the guy goes to George Burns. He says, you know, well, George Burns, as God, says, I'm going to go on a vacation, a long vacation. And basically telling the guy, you won't be able to communicate with me. And the guy says, but God, well, how would is there any way for me to talk to you? And George Burns goes, okay, I'll tell you what, you talk, I'll listen, but I won't respond, which is interesting. So the movie was that when the character realized it was really God, he actually sat down and had a bunch of questions. You know, why did you make this? Why did you do this? What, that? And George Burns' retorts or responses were always witty, were always very interesting, and actually made you think. They were kind of deep. But the core message that George Burns wanted to communicate as God was to treat each other with love and respect. He says that we have forgotten how to do that. And the film was actually remade a little while ago. And it was remade with let me just look this up. Forgot his name. It's on the tip of my tongue, but he's now really into the whole conspiracy theory thing. You know what I mean? So it was remade with Jim Carrey. All right, and he is funny as all heck. And let me see something here. Jim Carrey. Let me see if I can bring this up here. Yeah, I forgot the name of the film. Oh, it's called Bruce Almighty. Yes, Bruce Almighty. And in the film, it's a little bit of a different take, because in the film, God comes to Bruce, played by Jim Carrey, and says, listen, I'm going to go on a vacation, and I'm going to give you my powers. And I want you to do right by me. And he does actually go on vacation. And God is played by Morgan Freeman, and Morgan Freeman is excellent in everything he does, and he's really good in this film, Bruce Almighty as God. He's excellent in this film, and I think there was a follow-up, a sequel to that as well. But Bruce Almighty is a good film. It's a great film, because it shows you what we as so-called humans would do. We had the power of God, and Bruce misuses the power, but he learns a valuable lesson. But what I'm here to talk to you about is the idea that you have two minds. You have a higher mind and you have a lower mind. And most of us operate out of the lower mind. And the lower mind is confined to time, space-time. And meaning that we can only see the immediate, which is before us. We can't predict the future. We don't know what the outcome of things will be. And, very sophisticated math is getting into probabilities and things of that nature. But when you operate out of the higher mind, and the way to get to that is through the right brain, and the higher mind is source, which is Tehuti, God's wisdom aspect. When you operate out the higher mind, you can see so far. You can see into the future. You can know certain outcomes on things. Your lower mind does not know that the man that you're about to marry is going to cheat on you. Your lower mind does not know that that friend you have, the reason they're all emotional is because they're on drugs. With the higher mind, the connection to source, the connection to God, you can see these things. And the traditional religions of people of color, the Chinese people, the original people of color, the Chinese people, were called Nak. And they are the ones that created the oracle, the I-ching. And early on in the development of civilization, there was a need to communicate with God, because it's unfair to God to place you on this planet and have you be at the whims of tornadoes, hurricanes, and not have a means to survive. So God gives you a tool to communicate with him, her, so that you can get advice from God. You can get the predictions of what will happen from God. Will there be famine the next year? Will the crops burn, or things of that nature? And the people that were the first to communicate with God were the priestesses, the women, because women in general are predominantly right brain, and they had access to trance states. And trance state is the ability to go to alternate state of consciousness and commune with God and communicate with God. Well, the ruling elite, when they sought to take over the planet, they saw that this is a threat to them, the ability to communicate directly to God and get answers. So they sought out, they went on a propaganda campaign to vilify all religions of color, meaning people who started these religions, people of color, to make them seem as if they are of the devil, satanic. And the ruling elite then sought to legitimize their own religions, which are like Christianity, you understand, Islam, Judaism. And these religions are predominantly based on the fact that you don't go into trance. Trance is evil. Meditation is evil. And they had to do this to keep you from communicating and having conversations with God. And to take it a step further, they rewrote the Bible, because the Bible was really an occult book full of occult wisdom. It was very good. They rewrote the Bible and made it seem like only anointed men of God could communicate with God and hear God's word. The whole idea of Moses, going to the mountain, talking to God from the burning bush, is such a primitive and ridiculous idea. Let me say that again. Moses communicating directly with God and getting into the Ten Commandments is such a perversion of the truth. It is so ridiculous. See, God is no respecter of persons. God is going to communicate directly with you. God is going to talk to you. And the priestesses found many different ways of understanding God's language, because God would communicate in omens, in symbols. And Nostradamus in his quatrains could see into the future because he knew how to decode the language of the matrix, or decode God's wisdom. He knew how to look at the symbols around us and decode them and get meaning for them. See, God communicates to you in omens and symbols, or what we would call synchronicities. And if you're very sophisticated in understanding this, you can then translate that into an actual working language and then decipher what God is trying to tell you. You see, this is why Nostradamus was so good at what he did. He knew Nostradamus was a man who was not, we get this twisted. He was not an extraordinary man, not someone unique. He was a man that kept alive the traditions of the occult practices of our ancestors, the original priestesses. Do you understand? Because what he was doing, if you go back to ancient Kemet or Chinese dynasties, was not anything unusual in terms of predicting the future. The I-ching is a book that teaches you how to decode symbolisms to predict the future. So this was not unusual. These men were not, really noted men that stood out. You see, in ancient times, we produced geniuses. That was common for us. This is how we built the pyramids. This is how we traveled the stars. And yes, we did travel the stars. But the ruling elite, in constructing their society, had to make it seem like these were extraordinary men, and that such talents were out of the norm, when they were the norm, where they were the status quo in ancient antiquity. And the fact that you are not communicating with God or having conversations with God is unusual. If ancient man or woman were to come to us today, they would think we're primitive, the fact that we're not talking to God directly. And these pimp pastors, ministers who speak on the pulpit to say that they have an understanding of the Bible more than you do, they're stupid and they're liars. They have no understanding of the Bible whatsoever, because being left brain and succumbing to the will of homogeny, this society which imposes its doctrines upon us, and we must accept that. You see, I'm told that I should be for equality. I'm told that I need to be equal to white people. I am not equal to you. I did not enslave people based on color. I did not put in place a government system based on might makes right. Voting is equivalent to might makes right. Voting is not a way to determine what's right and wrong. It's just a way to determine what the sentiments of the majority are. But that doesn't mean that the majority are correct. There's an old saying, if the I-ching says it's so, a million people could say the exact opposite, but the I-ching is right, because it is the word of God. See, we're very confused and backwards in our modern day society, which is called havoc. We don't know if COVID-19 is real or not, but if you go to the oracles, you can find that out. If you talk to God directly, you can find that out. There's no question about it then. But we have lost that ancient art. We have lost the occult practices of our ancestors. See, we communicated using the meduneta, the hieroglyphics, which are pictorial representations that spoke to the right brain. And those pictorial representations were to be taken metaphorically as analogies. And that's how the Bible was written, based on astrotheology. But we're so confused, we're sick. We actually think the Bible is really about historical figures. It's not. It is a cult book of practice, of occult wisdom. Jesus is about Osiris. Jesus is about Pisces. You must understand this. So when we look at the movie, Oh God, with George Burns, we're looking at a situation that should be happening today. You should be communicating directly with God. You should be having conversations with God. But those individuals that come on their YouTube channel, talk about the Kemetic philosophy, don't understand this. And if those of you watching, I know you go on these other channels and you watch them and you be donating like crazy. So donate to my channel, please. Help keep this channel going, because I see you guys be like throwing money at these other charlatans. And I don't understand why it's all of a sudden when you come to my channel, everybody's like timid about donating. Ooh, no, that's not donate. But you're keeping the charlatans going, and they're selling snake oil. I tell people this all the time. I say, well, if you want to know I'm legit, you don't have to ask to see my priesthood certificate. You go to God and ask God. Is Kisank Ma'at teaching truth? And Ma'at will tell you. Very simple. If you want to know that Creflo Dollar, if he's legit, go to God and ask God if Creflo Dollar is legit. If Frederick Casey Price teaching the wrong things, ask God. You don't have to open the Bible and point out the contradictions he say on his sermons. Just go directly to God and say, hey, what's the deal here? Ask God if we're living in a matrix and get the answer right away. No confusion. Very simple. But see, many of you are backwards. Many of you are living an unrighteous life. You're crooked, I can tell. You're crooked. Because you don't go to God. And I have to remind folks this all time. People come to me, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I say, go to God and ask God. Don't ask me. Ask God. You got the bat phone. Call him up and say, God, what do you think about Trump? And then when you do get used to going to God, you guys ask the ridiculous questions. You ask really like nonsensical questions. And I'm baffled at that. And I have to remind many of you, and I say, listen, you must understand. You are talking with the creator of the universe, the creator of all that there is. Have some respect in the question that you ask him, her. Don't ask dumb questions. I speak to God on a daily basis. On a daily basis. And I can't believe that many of you who want to follow in the tradition of our ancestors don't have these conversations with God. And then when you have them, you ask really ridiculous questions. It shows your lack of commitment, lack of seriousness. See, for me, it's very clear why we are oppressed. We are oppressed because the energy vibrations that many of you are giving off is immature, is a lack of seriousness, a lack of commitment to revolution. Because the revolution must start with you. You must make a commitment to change your vibrational frequency so that you can shift to a reality where there is truth, there is justice, there is righteousness. But your mentality is childlike. Childlike. You understand that the reality that you're experiencing is a direct reflection of your belief systems? And if your belief systems are skewed, you're going to live in a skewed reality. This is why I say many people, the world suffers from mental health issues. We're not sane people. We have been bred and taught and nurtured to be insane people. You ever heard the saying, it is no measure of to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Many of us, we go about our daily lives and we think we got it all together because we have a bit of a status at work in our pocket. No, you're just well adjusted to a sick society. That's all you are. And if you're following truth and living truth, then you come up against society because you're not going to tolerate the nonsense that they throw your way. At a very early age, I remember sitting there watching TV, watching Frederick Price and T.D. Jakes, and laughing at the ignorance of these men. And my mother was next to me. She was laughing too. She saw they were ignorant. But many fools follow them. Many fools follow them. You can't put me in the same room with a Louis Farrakhan or T.D. Jakes or a Creflo Dollar, because there's going to be some problems, because I don't tolerate liars, charlatans. I don't tolerate that. So you better call the police and paramedics, because after I'm done, there's going to be some hurt, some bloodshed, and I'm not going to sit there amongst deceivers, schemers, and liars, and allow them to be in my presence and not correct them and not check them in their behavior. I would be remiss if I did that. I would not be following my mother, truth, if I allowed them to be in my presence and not chastise them and not call them out on their bullshit. They have been lying to the public for years and financially benefiting off this. And who was it most recently? Was it T.D. Jakes' daughter or something that just bought herself a mansion? What kind of foolishness is that when the congregation, we know Black people, by and large, are living in poverty. And then you go to church and you give this man money so his daughter can buy a mansion. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? But if you ask God if T.D. Jakes speaks the truth, God will tell you. And then the next question will be, well, what do I do about this man? What do I do? I went to my high priest because they were having political rallies. And I asked the high priest, I said, should I go to that political rally? The cause is just. He looked at me and he said, ask God if you should go. And I did. And God said, no, don't go. And then a fight broke out at that political rally. I saved myself from that. But you guys, every day, you just do things based on your lower mind. You don't ask God before you do it. You just do things and just think that you know what's best for you. No, God knows what's best for you. You've been trained and conditioned by the ruling elite. You are an agent, willing participant in this mayhem. You don't know what's right for you, and you don't know what's truth, because they've created such an illusion called reality that we can't decipher what's real and what's not real. So you got to talk to God about that, using your lower mind to try and figure it all out. I said this a long time ago. I said, in African tradition, in antiquity, the family was ruled by the oracle. The oracle was the head of the house. If the oracle said you two should divorce, then you divorce. If the oracle said you two to stay together, then you stay together. You see, the oracle is the word of God. And the oracle is what you should be working with on a daily basis. When I was first introduced to the oracle, from that point on, the quality of life improved immensely. And I began to have these conversations with God that were so deep and profound. I had to keep a log of everything, writing down all God's answers and going back and checking them. You don't need me. You don't need a priest as an intermediary to talk to God. All you do is get the i-ching, or you get the Meduna tear, get the ephah. and you communicate directly. You see, men and women are fallible. They succumb to their emotions. They're sahu. They have an animal nature, an aspect to them. So they can't guide you on what's right and wrong because they have not transcended to the ebb level, to the level of the Shechem, to the Ba level. They have not transcended to higher levels. So they can't guide you anywhere but off a cliff, like the fool in the tarot. When God, in Jim Carrey's movie, when God gave him all his power, Jim Carrey did the stupidest things because he was still operating out of his lower mind. He was still the same person that was trained by society to be backwards, to be emotional, to base everything off fear programming. That's what the society wants you to be about. It wants you to be afraid of everything. Hollywood spends so much money on propaganda movies to make you afraid of the dead, to make you afraid of ancestors, spirits, to make you afraid of meditation, to make you call people who are into the esoteric nuts. That's not true. That's not true. The nuts are the ones that are at the pulpit on the Sunday sermons. They are the nuts. Pretending they know something and they don't know. Pretending they can teach you something and they can't teach a dog new tricks. So spend some time communicating directly with God through the oracle. Get yourself an oracle. Get the i-ching, get the Maduna, get the ephod, get runes, and start communicating with God and having that conversation. God, should I go to this college? God, should I take this job? God, should I move into this apartment? God, should I purchase this house? God, should I go to this store to get my medication? God, should I go to this school to get a higher education? Should I pursue this career? God, what is the state of my health? God, what is my destiny? God, what is your plan for me? God, should I study a foreign language? God, should I take a vacation? God, should I move to a new state? God, is my wife faithful? God, am I faithful? God, am I an Ab man or a Shechem or am I a Sahu man? Tell me. God, what's next for me? What do I do? God, I've reached a plateau in my career. I don't know what to do. Please tell me. God's going to give you the right answer because God is always on your side. God has your back. God is not going to set you up to fail. Have these conversations with God. God, is Trump doing the right thing? God, what's going on with Creflo Dollar? Joel, is Joel Osteen? God, is Joel Osteen a crook? God, what's going on in Kanye West's head? Why is he so nutty? Is he controlled by the Illuminati, or is he just on drugs, or just a megalomaniac? God, where will I be in 5 years? God, this woman is sexy, but should I marry her? God, this man is sexy, but should I marry him? Because I don't want to give in to my carnal pleasures. God, because Sonic is so cute and I want him, what do I do? Ask questions. But you see these other people on the internet talking about Kemetic this, Kemetic that. They don't operate by an oracle. They don't talk to God. So why are you following them? Why are you listening to them? Because they sound deep? Set in Kemet, when he took over, Set had many people follow him because Set was deep. Set had some knowledge. Many people, including some of the gods, backed Set. But Haru and Isis, or Set, knew he was wrong, that he was an evil leader, and they opposed him. And they went to Tahuti, God's wisdom, and said, tell us how to defeat Set. He has a massive army. And Tahuti said, first, my beloved Haru, I will restore your third eye. And what that's an analogy to is giving you intuition, giving you wisdom, giving you the connection to source, to wisdom. And then when he restored Haru's third eye, Haru got wisdom. He knew then how to defeat Set. See, you need to go to God. You need your third eye restored, your uchat, so you can have wisdom in your life. That's what the story is about. But yet you have these people online saying, I can teach Kemet. All right, if you can teach Kemet, so do you know how Haru defeated Set, right? Yes, he went to Tahuti. So where's your Tahuti? How come you're not following the oracles? Even in the Matrix, they knew enough that they couldn't defeat the Matrix by themselves. They had to go to the oracle. You can't win with the ruling elite. You don't have enough spiritual power, meaning occult knowledge, because they're black magicians, they're masters of the occult. You don't have enough occult knowledge, and you don't have enough wisdom to beat them. They will kick your ass and serve you up for dinner. You've got to go to Tahuti, God's wisdom, the mouthpiece of God. Ask God, how do we defeat them? What do we do? And God will tell you. All these other people, we got to do a revolution. Yeah, it's a revolution, brothers. We got to get some guns, and we got to march down the street, and we got to show those white supremacists that we mean business. We got to dress up in all black and have guns, man. Did God tell you to do that? Did God say that's right? Because it sounds to me that you're provoking the dragon. Because they got more guns. And they make laws. And they got jails. They can lock you up. So did God tell you to do that? I don't think so. Oh, brother, you're not down for the cause. You're an Asian provocateur. You're not down because you're afraid to take on this devil. No. I listen to God first. If God tells me to do that, then I'll do it. Right now, God gave me the 36 hexagram of the I-ching. And the 36 hexagram says, Kisank, hide your light. Stay in the shadows. Protect yourself. Don't go out there causing trouble because they'll take you out. Hide your light. 36 hexagram of the I-ching. No, brother, I'm talking strategy. I'm talking strategy too. You see, God is a master strategist. He invented strategy. You see, God is the ultimate chess player. God never loses. But you're so dumb and emotional, you want to throw your life away on something stupid as a false show of force. When the Japanese wanted to bomb Pearl Harbor, it is said that they went to the I-ching and said, tell me the right time and date to bomb Pearl Harbor. And Oracle revealed to them, bomb it on this day and this time, they'll be unprepared. You'll take them by storm. So God is the ultimate strategist. And when you listen to God, you never, ever go wrong. This is Kasank Keperu, son of Ma'at and Tahuti. Ma'at is the beautiful goddess, Heru. Until next video, Amun Ra.